1. Excel. If you work in an office, learning a few basic Excel tricks might be one of the easiest ways to look way smarter than you actually are. Imagine someone has a spreadsheet with 5,000 rows of data. They're scrolling, copying, pasting, searching, scrolling again. Then you walk over and say, why don't you just use XLOOKUP? A few seconds later, the answer is right there. And suddenly, you're not just a coworker anymore. You're the Excel person. The funny thing is, you don't need to know everything Excel can do. Even learning a few tools like XLOOKUP, pivot tables, IF, and COUNTIF can make a huge difference. XLOOKUP is basically a faster way to find matching information. For example, if you have an employee ID and want to find that employee's name, Excel can search thousands of rows for you almost instantly. Pivot tables are just as useful. Give Excel a giant list of sales data, and in a few clicks, you can see total sales by state, product, or employee. To someone who doesn't know Excel, this looks like magic. To you, it's just a formula and a couple of clicks, and that's how you become known as the office genius. 2. The Doomsday Algorithm. Here's a skill that can make you look like you have a weirdly powerful brain. Someone gives you a random date. Let's say July 20th, 1969. You think for a few seconds and say, Sunday. They check their phone. You're right. Now they're looking at you like you secretly memorized every calendar in human history. You didn't. There's actually a system for this called the Doomsday Algorithm. The basic idea is that every year has certain easy-to-remember dates that all fall on the same day of the week. Dates like April 4th, June 6th, August 8th, October 10th, and December 12th. Once you figure out what day those dates fall on for a particular year, you can use them as reference points to work out other dates. It sounds complicated at first, but the basic pattern can be learned surprisingly quickly. Getting fast at it takes practice, of course, but the person watching you doesn't know any of that. All they see is random date, 5 seconds of thinking, correct answer, and suddenly you look like some kind of human calendar. Use this trick once at a party, and people might think you're a genius. Use it on everyone at the party, and you may not get invited back. 3. Backing up a trailer. Backing up a trailer is one of those things that looks much harder than it actually is. If you've never done it before, watching someone reverse a trailer perfectly into a parking spot can feel like watching someone solve a physics problem with a steering wheel. But there's a simple trick that makes the basic idea much easier. Put one hand at the bottom of the steering wheel. Now, move your hand in the direction you want the trailer to go. Want the trailer to move left, move your hand left. Want it to move right, move your hand right. That's it. Of course, knowing the trick and actually being good at it are two different things. You still need practice to judge distance, avoid overcorrecting, and keep the trailer from ending up at a completely different angle than you planned. But once you understand the basic movement, it suddenly feels a lot less mysterious. And to everyone watching from outside, they don't see the simple rule in your head. They just see you controlling a truck and a trailer at the same time, which makes you look extremely competent. Even if internally your entire thought process is hand goes left, trailer goes left, learning the trick takes a few minutes. Doing it while 6 strangers silently watch you at a boat ramp, that's the advanced level. 4. Keyboard shortcuts. If you want to look like you're really good with computers, learn a few keyboard shortcuts. You don't need 50 of them. Honestly, 5 or 6 useful ones are enough. For example, Control plus Shift plus T reopens a tab you accidentally closed. Control plus F finds a word on a page. Control plus L jumps straight to the address bar. Control plus W closes the current tab. And Control plus Shift plus V paste text without bringing all the weird formatting with it. None of these are difficult. You could probably learn them in 10 minutes. But when someone watches you use them quickly, it looks much more impressive than it really is. Imagine someone accidentally closes an important browser tab. They start searching through their history. You press Control plus Shift plus T. The tab comes back instantly. They look at you and say, "How did you do that?" And this is the moment where you can either explain the shortcut or quietly enjoy your new reputation as the computer genius. The real reason this works is simple. Speed looks like skill. If you can do something in 3 seconds that takes someone else 20 seconds of clicking through menus, it feels like you understand computers on a completely different level. You're not hacking anything. You just memorized a few buttons. but they don't need to know that. 5. Nato phonetic alphabet. Here's another skill that sounds much more advanced than it really is, the Nato phonetic alphabet. You've probably heard some of it before. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo. It's basically a way to make letters easier to understand, especially over the phone. So instead of saying B as in banana, you can just say Bravo. Instead of M as in maybe, you say Mike. And suddenly, a completely normal customer service call sounds like you're communicating with an airport control tower. This is useful when you're giving someone a confirmation code, a license plate, an email address, or any combination of letters that's easy to mishear. And the best part is there are only 26 words to learn. You don't need any special training. You just memorize them. But if you can say them naturally without stopping to think, people tend to assume you have some kind of professional background. Maybe aviation, maybe the military, maybe emergency services. In reality, you just spent part of your lunch break memorizing a list. You learned 26 words. They think you can land a plane. That's a pretty good return on investment. 6. Learn one good knot. You do not need to learn 20 different knots, you just need one good one. A useful example is the trucker's hitch. It can help you tighten and secure things like camping gear, a tarp, furniture, or anything you need to tie down properly. The funny part is that most people do not know any proper knots at all. So when they need to secure something, they usually just wrap the rope around a few times, make 3 random knots, and hope for the best. Then you walk over, tie one clean knot, pull it tight, and suddenly everyone assumes you know exactly what you are doing. The basic idea can be learned pretty quickly. Of course, tying it smoothly and confidently takes a bit more practice. But to everyone watching, it looks like some kind of old-school survival skill. And once people see you do one proper knot, they start making assumptions. Maybe you go camping all the time, maybe you know how to sail, maybe you can build a shelter in the woods. No, you watched one tutorial yesterday, but congratulations, you are now the outdoors guy. 7. Learn to read Hangul. This one sounds much harder than it actually is. You probably cannot learn Korean in an hour, but you can learn the basics of Hangul, the Korean writing system. Hangul uses a relatively small number of basic letters, and they are combined into blocks that represent syllables. Once you understand that system, Korean writing starts to look a lot less mysterious. For example, take this word, Hangul. If you have never studied Hangul before, it probably just looks like a group of symbols. But after learning the basic letters and how they fit together, you can actually sound it out as Hangul. And that is where this skill becomes surprisingly impressive, because to someone who does not know how Hangul works, watching you look at Korean text and read it out loud can seem like you suddenly know an entire language. You do not. You might be able to pronounce the word perfectly and still have absolutely no idea what it means. But from the outside, it looks pretty impressive. So with less than an hour of learning, you are not becoming fluent in Korean. You are just learning enough to make Korean writing stop looking like a secret code. And apparently that is already enough to make people think you are much smarter than you are.